Look, I've been through a lot in my 48 years, but nothing prepared me for what happened that Tuesday morning. The meeting room projector was still humming when my security badge blinked from green to red. I'm Thomas Mitchell, by the way, and I figured it was just another network glitch. You know how corporate IT works. But then Preston Blackwood cleared his throat. Kid had that rehearsed confidence only rich brats get from expensive schools. Tom will be transferring full ownership of Guardian AI effective immediately. Now here's the thing. You gotta understand about Guardian AI. This wasn't just some software program. This was the military defense system I'd spent 20 years building, line by line. The system protecting half our military bases, keeping our soldiers safe overseas. And this spoiled kid was trying to snatch it from me like it was his birthday present. Nobody said a word. Not the CFO sitting 2 chairs down, not even the project leads whose entire careers depended on what I'd built. 20 years at Titan Corp Defense Solutions, and this is the thanks I get. I closed my presentation, powered down the tablet, my hands didn't shake. 20 years in the Navy teaches you to stay calm when the world's going to hell around you. Preston finally looked me in the eye. You'll get your termination papers within the hour, he said. Nice and clean, meant to hurt later when it sank in. I nodded, signed whatever paper they slid across the table. Didn't even read it. When I got to the door, I stopped. Preston, I said, keeping my voice level, you sure you read Clause 19.7? The company's chief legal counsel looked down at his hands real quick. Guy had helped me write that clause years back. Preston just blinked at me like I was speaking Chinese. I gave him one of those smiles. You know the type. Then I walked out. The hallway was dead quiet after all that noise. My badge wouldn't work the elevator anymore, so I took the stairs to the 15th floor. To the office I'd built piece by piece over 2 decades. Place smelled like coffee and that electric smell from the servers. My desk looked smaller than usual. The white lab coat still hung on my chair from last week's all-nighter debugging the system. I folded it up, careful-like. 20 years at Titan Corp. 20 years of missed family dinners, emergency calls at 2 a.m., weekend deployments to fix whatever crisis came up. I'd saved this company from 4 system failures and helped land that $4.2 billion defense contract that put us on the map. On my shelf sat the framed patent certificate for Guardian AI. Next to it, a photo of my first engineering team. All young and eager back then. Some of them had texted apologies earlier. I didn't blame them. They learned too late what loyalty costs in corporate America. I shut down my workstation and watched the screen go black. Then something interesting happened. A single line of text popped up. Clause 19.7, pre-verification pending. That's when I smiled for real, grabbed my patent frame, and walked out of there. So anyway, back at my place that night, Dallas lights twinkling outside, I sat down at my old desktop. The one I never hooked up to Titan Corp's network. Smart move, as it turns out. The past started coming back to me. It was 2004, right after I left the Navy. Maxwell Blackwood, Preston's old man, was different then. Still hungry, still building something real instead of just managing daddy's money. We used to grab beers and talk about protecting American soldiers with better tech. That's when we wrote Clause 19.7, the military asset protection failsafe. Here's how it worked. Any transfer of defense-related intellectual property needed dual verification between Titan Corp's system and the Pentagon's Defense Contract Registry. Without both signatures, ownership automatically went back to whoever created it. We protect our people the same way we protect our country, Maxwell used to say. Build systems that can't be bought or bullied. Now here's the part Maxwell never knew about. I'd embedded my own encryption key into the contract's digital signature fields. Call it Navy paranoia, but every system needs a backup plan. If anyone ever tried to fake my authorization, the Sunrise Protocol would kick in automatically. For years, everything worked fine. Titan Corp grew, landed bigger contracts. My hidden clause stayed buried in the legal paperwork, invisible but rock solid. Every licensing deal had to ping that dual verification system. But Maxwell got older, started listening to his MBA son about modernizing and streamlining. The real engineers left, the lawyers multiplied. Preston started talking about cutting dead weight and maximizing shareholder value. Guy couldn't code his way out of a paper bag, but he sure knew how to talk business school nonsense. Now that old choice was coming back to bite them. My computer showed the encryption seed still running, steady as a heartbeat. Somewhere in those algorithms was the sunrise trigger I'd written 20 years ago, just waiting for someone to try exactly what Preston pulled today. I stared at the blinking cursor and said to myself, "You read the clause, kid. You just never figured out who wrote it." The next morning, I went to Murphy's Diner across from Titan Corp Tower, close enough to watch the show, far enough that none of the suits would spot me. The TV above the counter had Preston's face plastered all over it, smooth as snake oil. "Today," he announced to the cameras, "Titan Corp proudly confirms complete ownership of Guardian AI, the system that will define the future of American defense technology." Crowd ate it up. I sipped my black coffee and let the bitterness settle in. Kid was trying to erase me without ever saying my name. Guardian AI, the system I'd debugged through countless all-nighters, rebuilt after 2 near disasters, now getting rebranded as corporate property. I pulled out my notebook and started documenting every lie, every timeline that didn't add up. My hand moved automatically, the way you'd log enemy positions before calling in artillery. That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Mr. Mitchell? This is Rachel Martinez, Defense Contractor News. We got Titan Corp's public filing, and the signature hash doesn't match our Pentagon records. You want to comment?" I typed back real slow. "Ask them about Sunrise." Set the phone down and kept watching Preston work the crowd. Kid was shaking hands with the same lawyer who'd helped me write the clause that was going to destroy him. The irony was beautiful. "Enjoy your moment," I muttered, finishing my coffee. Sunrise ain't far off. Fast forward to that night. My apartment felt different, you know? Too quiet, like the calm before you make contact with the enemy. Digital clock read 5:42 a.m., T-minus 18 minutes and counting. I poured the last of the coffee into my old Navy mug, the one with USS Nimitz faded on the side. My monitor showed one line: Sunrise Protocol Standby Mode active. All it needed was my go-ahead. "Look," I hesitated for a second. Not because I had doubts, but because you don't press buttons like this without thinking it through. Once you pull that trigger, everything changes. I punched in my authentication code. System hummed to life, digital gears turning deep in the network. Text popped up. "Protocol activated. Clause 19.7 synchronization sequence running." On my desk sat an old photo from the early Titan Corp days. Me and Maxwell in the lab, both grinning under those harsh fluorescent lights. His tie was crooked, my uniform shirt wrinkled from a long shift. The caption he'd written in marker along the bottom was still clear: "Build it right, protect it, always." Maxwell would have hated what Titan Corp became. All the boardroom politics, the vanity projects, caring more about stock prices than soldier safety. Preston was everything we'd sworn to protect against. Some rich kid who thought inheritance meant expertise. 5:58 a.m. My pulse matched the server rhythm. No fear left, just focus. Phone rang. Blocked number. Mitchell. "Tom, it's Zachary from legal." Guy's voice was shaking. "They don't know the clause is counting down, do they? It's live, isn't it?" I stayed quiet. Sometimes silence says more than words. "They're pushing a press release at dawn," he whispered. "If you're planning something..." "I'm not planning, Zach. I'm executing." Long pause, then real quiet. "God help them." Line went dead. Timer hit 6 o'clock a.m. exactly. I hit enter. Here's where it gets interesting. Preston chose this fancy restaurant for his celebration. All crystal and marble, the kind of place where everything shines and guilt hides behind good lighting. Private dinner for executives and investors, calling it Titan Corp's new era. They invited me as a guest of honor. Yeah, right. I showed up in my dress Navy uniform. Not the business suit they expected, but the uniform that reminded everyone what I'd actually done with my life. Host's smile went crooked when he saw me, but Preston recovered quick. "Tom," he said, sticking out his hand, "glad you could make it. Guardian AI wouldn't exist without your foundation work." Kid wanted that to sting. I shook his hand with the kind of steadiness that comes from actual responsibility. "Thanks for the invite," I said, "and the acknowledgement. Both are pretty rare these days." Maxwell sat at the head of the table, looking older than I remembered. Guilt ages a man faster than time, I guess. I grabbed a seat near the end, close enough to watch, far enough to bail if I needed to. Champagne started flowing. Speeches followed. Predictable as a mission briefing. Maxwell raised his glass first. To Titan Corp's next generation, he said. To innovation and legacy. I lifted my glass but didn't drink. Legacy's got a funny way of rewriting itself when you're not paying attention. Preston stood up next, grinning for cameras that weren't even there. We're celebrating progress, he said. Guardian AI now belongs to Titan Corp completely. The future is secure. He looked right at me when he said, secure. Word hung between us like a challenge. I smiled back, calm as anything. Integration can be tricky, I said easy-like. Defense systems don't like unauthorized transfers. Few guests laughed, thinking it was a joke. Preston didn't. His smile flickered before he got it back under control. Our team says it's stable, he said. Good, I replied, setting down my glass. Just make sure somebody backs up the system before sunrise. Table went dead quiet for half a beat. That moment when people sense something they can't quite figure out. Preston searched my face for hints and found nothing but professional calm. Maxwell cleared his throat, changed the subject to expansion plans. Moment passed for them. For me, it crystallized. Every tick of my watch was countdown now. Halfway through dessert, server came in with a cream envelope. Titan Corp security logo, marked urgent. Preston tore it open, Maxwell leaning in as he read, Request immediate verification of signature authorization. Pentagon compliance required. Color drained right out of Preston's face. Maxwell's jaw went tight. Legal advisors started whispering about routine audits, but nobody was buying it. I stood up, dabbed my mouth with the napkin. Thanks for dinner, I said, polite as you please. Real enlightening evening. Preston couldn't even answer. Just stared at that letter like it might change what it said. Enjoy the rest of your night, I added, hand on my chair. Tomorrow's gonna be different. Outside, Dallas air was sharp and honest. I looked up at the stars, barely visible through all the city lights, and said to nobody in particular, mission parameters confirmed. Execute at sunrise. You know what? I hadn't planned to drive after that dinner. Told myself I'd go home, grab some sleep, let the system do what it was built to do. But sleep felt like abandoning your post, so I drove. First just wandering, then with purpose. Each mile marker like a question I didn't want to answer. What if I was wrong? What if protecting what I'd built made me just like them, using power to settle old scores instead of serve justice? The thought got under my skin. For 20 years, I'd told myself everything was about integrity, about protecting American soldiers. But tonight, watching Preston's arrogance, I couldn't shake the feeling that revenge had crept into my mission somewhere along the way. Pulled into a rest stop off I-35, those fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, flickering against the cold night. Left the engine running for warmth and leaned back in my seat. Phone lit up with a news alert. Live feed from Titan Corp Tower. There was Preston on the podium again, smiling like he owned the world. Caption read, Titan Corp executive addresses, ownership questions, calls reports, misunderstanding. Kid was laughing it up with the press, spinning stories that made him look like some kind of visionary. Guardian AI is secure, he said, fully under Titan Corp stewardship as confirmed by our verification systems. My pulse picked up. Not from anger this time, but clarity. For a hot second, I wondered if I should call the whole thing off. Turn off the system, pull back the command, let them keep their little fantasy. Then the feed showed Preston shaking hands with the same legal guy who'd helped me write Clause 19.7 20 years back. The man standing right next to him had built the very trap that was about to snap shut, and Preston didn't have a clue. I saw my reflection in the windshield. Steady, focused. The doubt melted away, replaced by something cleaner. Conviction. This wasn't payback. This was accountability. Opened my laptop on the passenger seat. The mirror protocol interface was still running, lines of code scrolling like a waterfall. New message popped up. Clause 19.7 validation stage 2 complete. Stage 2 meant the system had linked up both networks, Titan Corp's internal ledger and the Pentagon registry. All that was left now was time. Preston's voice kept echoing from the phone, promising investors stability, progress, innovation built on lies. I turned the volume way down. Lie while you can, I said to the screen. System remembers the truth. Started the car and drove toward the horizon, chasing that first hint of dawn. Look, the city was waking up when I got back to my place. Opened the balcony doors and cold air rushed in, sharp with the smell of morning traffic. From 20 floors up, Dallas looked neat and orderly, like a circuit board following commands it didn't understand. Inside, my monitor pulsed with one message. Sunrise Protocol Standby Mode active. 5:45 a.m. The big show would start in 15 minutes. Word was that Titan Corp Tower was packed with executives, cameras, champagne. Preston had convinced everybody the system issue was fixed overnight. Investors bought it, press bought it, even Maxwell bought it. Here's the thing about confidence. It doesn't need facts, just needs an audience. I leaned against the railing, wind messing with my hair, picturing the scene playing out above me. Preston in his $1,000 suit, spotlight hitting his fancy watch, that smirk of somebody too sure of their own power, ready to tell the world that Titan Corp officially owned Guardian AI. Champagne corks were probably popping already, that fake cheer you get from scared people trying to sound celebratory. Phone buzzed. Live alert from Titan Corp's media channel. Global defense announcement starting now. Tapped the link. Preston's face filled my screen. Good morning, and thanks for joining us at this historic moment, he said. Today marks the official integration of Guardian AI technology that will change how America protects its most valuable assets. Crowd went wild. I turned the sound down until his voice was just background noise against the city's morning hum. 5:59 a.m. Pulse was steady. Not nervous, not excited, just aware that everything was moving exactly like it should. On the broadcast, Preston walked over to the digital contract tablet, ready for his big moment of ownership. He looked at Maxwell, then the cameras, and flashed that $1,000,000 smile. With this signature, he said, Titan Corp secures its rightful legacy. He pressed his thumb to the scanner. Nothing happened at first. Then the screen flickered. My code woke up. System scanned again, looking for a match that wasn't there. Words appeared, bold and clear. Unauthorized biometric input. Reversal protocol activated. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Preston's confidence evaporated like morning fog. From my balcony, I could see red alarms flashing inside Titan Corp Tower, lights racing upward floor by floor. I took another sip of cold coffee and let the city noise swallow all that panic. At exactly 6 o'clock a.m., sun cleared the horizon. First ray of sunlight hit Titan Corp Tower, washing that glass face in gold. Inside, lights started flickering. Looked routine at first glance. But to anybody who understood systems, that flicker was sequence. It was activation. The mirror protocol was rolling out, cutting every connection between power and theft. Main display in Preston's boardroom showed, license revoked. Dead silence in that room. Then another line scrolled underneath, sunrise reversal executed. I could picture faces around that table, CFO going pale, PR director frozen with a champagne glass halfway to her lips, board members whispering over sudden system lockdowns. Then the final message popped up. Owner, Thomas Mitchell, Mitchell Defense Solutions LLC. Servers inside Titan Corp's network started broadcasting worldwide. Financial institutions across 3 continents got the same message within seconds. Every Titan Corp account, patent ledger, licensing node, all went into lockdown mode. Domestic servers first, then Europe, then the Pentagon verification grid. Under 60 seconds, the whole empire froze solid. I didn't smile. Not yet. Just watched golden light climb higher on the tower's glass front, lighting up the chaos inside. You could almost hear this panic from here. Sudden scraping of chairs, frantic keyboard clicking, rising chorus of what's happening as people realized control had shifted right out from under their feet. Back inside, my workstation screens came alive, showing mirror feeds from the network. Dashboard pulsed with status updates. Clause 19.7 validation complete. Federal Registry ownership transfer confirmed. Titan Corp access privileges suspended. Then the final signal, clear and calm. System state restored. Wasn't destruction, was correction. For 20 years, I'd built something designed to protect innovation from corruption. Now, it was doing exactly that job. On one of the feeds, boardroom camera caught Preston's face as he leaned toward the screen, shouting orders nobody could follow. Microphone picked up pieces, reboot and rollback, but the system was sealed tight. The failsafe couldn't be reversed from inside the network. That was the beauty of it. System only recognized truth. Shrill alarm cut through the broadcast. Then a voice, mechanical but composed, filled the whole building. Ownership restored, per clause 19.7. Those were the last words before Titan Corp's broadcast cut to static. For a while, I just sat there in the quiet that followed, letting it all sink in. World outside kept going like nothing happened, not knowing that billions had just changed hands, that one buried clause in legal code had rewritten ownership across 3 continents. Phone started buzzing at 6:42 a.m. just as the first real warmth hit my desk. Maxwell's number, one I'd memorized decades back but never thought I'd see again. I let it ring until the very last second. Mitchell. Tom, please. Maxwell's voice cracked like old leather. Gone was that smooth authority from shareholder meetings. This was raw, stripped down, no polish left. We need you to unlock the system. Assets are frozen. Federal investigators are calling our banks. If this doesn't get reversed in the next hour... Maxwell, I said, voice steady and almost gentle. System's not locked. It's restored. Sharp intake of breath. Restored to what? I looked at my screen showing the line that had been running for 30 minutes. License revoked, ownership restored. T. Mitchell Defense Solutions, LLC. To balance, I answered. Clause 19.7 did exactly what we designed it to do. You don't get it, he sputtered. Preston didn't know. Maxwell. My tone went surgical now. Ignorance doesn't excuse anything. You both signed the same charter I did. Rules never changed. You did. Silence on the other end. Background voices. Panicked footsteps. Phones ringing off the hook. Empire was coming apart in real time. Tom, he tried again, softer, almost begging. I'm asking for help here. Whatever you want. Can't buy back integrity, Maxwell. And you can't reopen a vault that never belonged to you. He let out this shaky breath. You think this is justice? Justice isn't always pretty, I said, still watching morning light cut through downtown Dallas, but it's always fair. Another silence. In it, I heard what he couldn't say. The realization that this wasn't revenge. This was consequence. Tom, he whispered, voice breaking completely. They're gonna take everything. I looked down at my Navy mug. Cold coffee leaving a ring on the wood. They're only taking what never should have been yours. System doesn't punish, Maxwell. It corrects. Line went dead. No goodbye, no final plea. Just that dial tone, the most honest sound Titan Corp had made in years. Headlines hit before noon. The Sunrise crash. Titan Corp collapses after defense contract reversal. By afternoon, markets were bleeding red. 78% wiped from Titan Corp stock within hours. I watched from my couch, city light flickering across a half-empty coffee mug. Footage showed investors outside headquarters, clutching phones, and Preston getting escorted to a federal car with investigators on both sides. Anchor's voice stayed calm and rehearsed. Officials confirm ongoing investigation into fraudulent transfer of defense patents, with evidence suggesting systematic negligence at Titan Corp Defense Solutions. Systematic negligence. Didn't capture the arrogance, the deliberate blindness, the belief that rules were for other people. I muted the sound and grabbed my phone. Found the name I'd been meaning to contact, Caleb Rodriguez, young Marine vet I'd mentored a few years back. Typed one message. Don't repeat their mistakes. Build something better. Hit send, and put the phone down. Here's the thing. A year later, I unlocked the glass door of my new office. Plaque read Mitchell Defense Consulting in clean steel letters. Sunlight poured across the floor, hitting a new patent frame on the wall. Sunrise Protocol Security Infrastructure. Caleb stood by the doorway. He'd followed me here after Titan Corp's collapse, still carrying that same determination that reminded me of my younger self. You ever regret it? He asked quietly. How it all ended. I poured coffee slow, watching steam curl up. No, I said. Justice doesn't need to be loud, just needs to be real. He nodded, understanding spreading across his face. Computer chimed with a new message. Subject line, Pentagon. Contract proposal, Advanced Defense Network, value $3.8 billion. I leaned back, letting sunlight spill over the desk. World had found its balance after all. You know what's funny? Looking back now, the real victory wasn't getting back what was mine. It was proving that experience beats arrogance. Companies fall, dynasties crumble, but truth you build with patience and principle always comes back around. Few months after that, got invited to speak at the Dallas Business Ethics Council. Room full of executives, all wanting to know how to avoid what happened to Titan Corp. Simple, I told them. Honor your agreements, respect the people who build your success, and remember that every system has a creator who knows how it really works. Guy in the back raised his hand. What would you say to young entrepreneurs just starting out? I thought about Caleb, about all the young vets I was training now. Build it right from the start. Don't wait for someone else to force you to do the right thing. And if you're going to put fail-safes in your systems, make sure you're the kind of person who deserves to control them. Afterward, walking to my car, Dallas skyline lit up against the evening sky. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the kind that comes from winning, but the kind that comes from knowing you did things the right way. My phone buzzed. Text from Caleb. Just got confirmation on our first government contract, $2.1 billion over 5 years. We did it, Tom. I smiled, typing back, you did it. I just showed you where the tools were. Justice doesn't always come with fanfare. Sometimes it arrives quiet, like sunrise breaking over the horizon. And when it does, it changes everything. Not just for the people who deserve to fall, but for the ones who deserve to rise. The city kept moving around me, traffic lights blinking through the dusk. Red, yellow, green. The endless rhythm of a world that never stops building itself back up, better than before. That's the thing about truth. It doesn't just restore. It rebuilds.